A woman turns off her kitchen light for the last time. She's 42, a teacher in Austin, and has just packed up the boxes of a life she can no longer afford. Her rent has tripled since 2015. What used to cost $900 now exceeds $2,700. The building was sold to a California investment firm. Soon, it will be a complex with an infinity pool, co-working space, and rentals starting at $3,000 a month. Outside, the cranes never stop. Inside, the silence weighs heavier than the heat. On the freeway, traffic glistens like an open wound in the sun. Thousands of people drive for hours every day because they can no longer afford to live where they work. Texas grew, yes, but not for everyone. Neighborhoods filled with skyscrapers, minimalist cafes, and exorbitant rents. Houses became gambles, neighborhoods investments, and the Texas dream a commodity. In Houston, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, the story repeats itself. Stagnant wages, skyrocketing prices, and record-breaking summer heat. The myth of a state where anything was possible is melting beneath the scorching asphalt. Today, for thousands of Texans, simply staying is impossible. This story is not an exception. It is the real life of thousands of Texans who pack their boxes every day, leave their homes behind, and wonder how something as basic as living became a luxury. Because what is happening in Austin, Dallas, and Houston is not a coincidence. It has causes, it has those responsible, and it has consequences. And these 35 reasons are precisely what is responsible for it. Reason number 35, the explosive population growth. It's no secret that Texas has been booming, but this growth has reached unmanageable levels. Cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston are bursting at the seams. Between 2010 and 2023, Texas gained over 4 million new residents, more than any other state. The result, endless traffic jams, skyrocketing housing costs, and neighborhoods expanding faster than their infrastructure can handle. What used to be peaceful suburbs are now construction zones, with long commutes and scarce parking. For many locals, Texas feels more crowded than ever, and that legendary wide open space is quickly disappearing under a wave of concrete. 34. Housing prices are through the roof. Texas once bragged about its cheap housing. Not anymore. Since 2019, median home prices have jumped by more than 60% in key metro areas. Austin, for instance, now rivals cities like Denver and Seattle in cost of living. Even small towns like Round Rock and Georgetown have seen home values double in less than a decade. Combine that with property taxes that can easily hit 2.5% or higher, and the dream of homeownership fades fast. Many locals feel priced out of their own state as out-of-state buyers and investors scoop up properties for cash, leaving Texans chasing affordability that no longer exists. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and uncover the hidden stories and curiosities of each U.S. state that no one else will tell you. 33. Property taxes that crush you. Here's a shocker. Texas has no state income tax, but that benefit is eaten alive by property taxes, some of the highest in the country. Depending on the county, Texans can pay more annually than homeowners in California or New York. For example, in places like Fort Bend or Collin County, it's common for a $400,000 home to rack up over $10,000 in taxes each year. That's before considering homeowners insurance, which is also among the priciest nationwide. So while newcomers once saw Texas as a tax haven, many are discovering it's more like a wallet trap with cowboy boots. 32. The brutal, never-ending heat. If you haven't spent a full summer in Texas, you might not understand what unlivable really feels like. In 2023 alone, many regions experienced over 50 consecutive days above 100-degree F. That's not summer, it's survival training. Air conditioning becomes a lifeline, driving electric bills to staggering levels. Outdoor life grinds to a halt, lakes and rivers dry up, pets suffer, and even vehicles overheat. And with climate trends intensifying, experts warn that Texas is becoming one of the hottest and least sustainable states to endure long term. It's hard to enjoy cowboy country when you feel like you're living inside a hairdryer. 31. Power grid failures that keep coming back. Remember the 2021 winter storm that left millions freezing in the dark? Well, the state promised it wouldn't happen again, but it almost did. Texas's independent power grid, ERCOT, continues to face criticism for its instability. The problem, it's isolated from the rest of the national grid. That means when demand spikes, like during a heat wave or freeze, Texans are at risk of blackouts. While other states can share energy across borders, Texas remains stubbornly independent. Every year, residents brace themselves for power warnings, praying their AC or heater won't cut out mid-crisis. 30. Skyrocketing insurance costs. Living in Texas means paying some of the highest homeowner and auto insurance premiums in the country. Why? Severe weather, hail damage, and flooding risks. From tornadoes in the north to hurricanes near the Gulf, insurers are hiking rates or pulling out entirely. In Houston, some residents report their insurance doubling within 5 years. Even renters aren't safe. Rising rates trickle down into higher monthly payments. For families already squeezed by housing costs, insurance expenses are the final punch that makes life in Texas feel financially impossible. 29. The traffic is a nightmare. Traffic in Texas used to be a joke. Now it's a tragedy. Austin ranks among the worst cities in the US for congestion, and Dallas-Fort Worth isn't far behind. Long gone are the days when you could zip down the highway. Now rush hour lasts half the day, and construction zones seem eternal. The state's growth far outpaced its infrastructure, and many highways date back decades. Sitting in gridlock under a 105-degree sun while your gas burns away is the new normal. For many, commuting in Texas has become a daily mental endurance test. 28. Unreliable public transportation. Unlike New York or Chicago, Texas cities simply never invested in public transit. Outside of limited light rail systems in Dallas and Houston, most areas are car dependent to an extreme degree. If you don't drive, you don't move. Period. Bus routes are sparse, slow, and often unsafe after dark. For workers, students, or anyone without a reliable car, getting around can feel impossible. Add in sprawling distances between cities, and Texas turns into a logistical nightmare. The lack of transit options keeps people isolated and spending more on cars, insurance, and gas. 27. The water crisis that's already here. Texas is running out of water fast. Years of drought, population growth, and overconsumption are drying up reservoirs and groundwater supplies. Towns across the state have already imposed restrictions, and some have faced emergencies where water literally stopped flowing. The Colorado River and other key sources are shrinking, threatening both agriculture and daily life. Experts warn that by 2030, major regions could face chronic shortages. When turning on the tap becomes a privilege, the Texas lifestyle starts to lose its shine. 26. The out-of-control cost of utilities. Power, gas, and water bills in Texas are no joke. Between heat-driven electricity use and unreliable grid surcharges, monthly utility costs can rival rent in some areas. During peak summer, families routinely report $400 to $600 electric bills, while businesses face even steeper charges to keep operations running. And when storms or grid failures strike, energy companies often pass the cost of repairs and maintenance directly back to consumers. Add water shortages that trigger surcharges and rising natural gas prices, and you have a perfect storm of expenses. That so-called low cost of living Texas once bragged about, it's evaporating fast, buried under unpredictable fees that make even basic comfort feel like a luxury 25, the wild weather extremes. Texas doesn't just get hot, it gets everything. Tornadoes, hailstorms, floods, hurricanes, wildfires, you name it, Texas gets it. 1 week you're sunburned, the next your neighborhood's underwater. Weather whiplash is real here. In 2021, snow paralyzed the power grid. In 2023, record-breaking droughts torched farmland. Even everyday living is unpredictable. Roads crack under heat, roofs buckle under hail, and homeowners constantly rebuild. Nature seems to have declared Texas its favorite test site for chaos. 24. The declining air quality. As industrial growth and traffic rise, air quality in Texas has plummeted. Cities like Houston consistently rank among the most polluted in the US due to refineries, chemical plants, and heavy traffic. Even Austin and San Antonio have started issuing ozone alert days, where outdoor activity is discouraged. For families with children or anyone with respiratory issues, this isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. The Texas sky might look big and blue, but what's floating in it is far from clean. 23. Rising crime rates and safety concerns. While Texas once boasted of being tough on crime, recent statistics tell another story. Major cities like Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio have seen significant upticks in violent crime since 2020. In 2023, Houston ranked among the top US cities for homicides per capita, and car thefts in Dallas spiked nearly 40% year over year. Police departments are stretched thin, struggling with staffing shortages, and response times have grown painfully long. Even suburban areas once considered safe, like Katy or Plano, are now reporting break-ins and thefts at unprecedented rates. The legendary Texas security has become a myth that's getting harder to believe in. 22. Overwhelmed healthcare systems. Texas's healthcare infrastructure is on life support. The state ranks near the bottom nationally for access to medical care, with some rural counties lacking even a single hospital. In urban areas, hospitals are overcrowded and understaffed, leading to long emergency room waits. More alarming, Texas has one of the highest uninsured rates in the country. Over 16% of residents lack health coverage. That means even minor medical issues can turn into financial disasters. For many, the combination of limited access, high costs, and endless bureaucracy has made staying healthy in Texas nearly impossible. 21. Poor public education quality. Education in Texas has turned into a political and financial battlefield, where students and teachers are paying the price. Educators are leaving classrooms in record numbers, citing low pay, insufficient resources, and overwhelming workloads. Texas ranks near the bottom in per-student funding and teacher salaries among large U.S. states, creating a widening gap between urban and rural education. Standardized testing dominates instruction, stifling creativity and critical thinking. Many parents, frustrated by underperforming schools, turn to private or homeschooling alternatives, luxuries most families cannot afford. Rural districts, meanwhile, face closures or forced consolidation, depriving communities of vital institutions. What was once the proud promise of quality education in the Lone Star State has become a fight for survival within a neglected system. 20. The political polarization. Texas isn't just divided, it's a full-blown battlefield of ideologies where nearly every topic becomes a spark for conflict. From gun rights and border security to education and public health, discussions rarely stay civil. Friends avoid political conversations, families argue at dinner tables, and even neighborhood associations fracture along partisan lines. The state's rapid demographic shifts, combined with cultural and economic transformations, have deepened an identity crisis that pits old traditions against emerging values. Local school boards and city councils, once focused on practical issues, are now arenas of political warfare. The constant tension has eroded trust and community bonds, leaving many Texans mentally drained. For countless residents, it's not just politics anymore. It's an everyday struggle for peace of mind in a place where expressing an opinion can instantly turn allies into enemies. 19. The failing infrastructure. For a state that prides itself on size and innovation, Texas's infrastructure is shockingly fragile. Roads are cracked and congested, bridges are aging, and public utilities can barely keep up. After every major storm, the flaws become painfully visible. Flooded highways, broken water mains, and downed power lines. The Texas Department of Transportation has admitted it's billions short of what's needed to maintain and expand the system. The result? Dangerous commutes, endless construction detours, and a sense that everything is one disaster away from collapse. 18. Unaffordable rent and evictions. Even for those not buying homes, renting in Texas has become a losing game. Average rents in cities like Austin and Dallas have doubled in a decade. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Austin now exceeds $2,600 a month, higher than parts of California's Inland Empire. And with limited tenant protections, landlords can increase rates freely or evict tenants with minimal notice. The rapid influx of new residents has created a feeding frenzy in the rental market, where locals often find themselves outbid by corporate investors or remote workers earning out-of-state salaries. 17. The shrinking middle class. Texas once sold itself as a land where hard work could build a future. But today, the middle class is disappearing. Rising housing, healthcare, and education costs are crushing families that used to feel stable. The economic divide between the wealthy and everyone else is growing faster than in most U.S. states. Many Texans now work multiple jobs just to keep up with expenses that once required only one steady paycheck. That balance between affordable living and quality of life has tipped completely, and it's pushing thousands to look elsewhere for a fairer shot. 16. Outdated labor protections. If you work in Texas, you quickly realize how few rights you have. The state's at-will employment laws mean workers can be fired without warning or reason. Paid sick leave isn't guaranteed, and workplace protections are minimal. OSHA data consistently shows high rates of workplace injuries, especially in construction and oil-related fields. Add in extreme heat conditions that put outdoor workers at serious risk, and it's clear Texas prioritizes industry over individual safety. For many, the state's economic freedom comes at a steep human cost. 15. The pollution problem. Beyond the smog and ozone warnings, Texas faces a more alarming environmental reality. It's home to more oil refineries and chemical plants than any other state, particularly along the Gulf Coast. Communities near industrial zones, like Port Arthur and Pasadena, report higher rates of asthma, cancer, and other respiratory diseases. The term sacrifice zones is no exaggeration. While the energy industry powers the economy, it's also poisoning the very air and water Texans depend on. Even those living far from refineries aren't safe. Wind currents spread pollutants hundreds of miles inland. 14. The exploding homeless population. Homelessness has surged across major Texas cities at a pace that alarms even longtime residents. In Austin, the number of people without housing has climbed by more than 20% in recent years, with sprawling tent encampments now a common sight under bridges, highways, and in public parks. Houston, once praised nationally for its innovative homelessness reduction programs, has seen its progress reversed by inflation, skyrocketing rents, and a severe shortage of affordable units. Dallas, San Antonio, and El Paso are facing similar crises as shelters reach capacity and waiting lists grow longer every month. Yet, despite the visible suffering, state and local responses remain fragmented, often turning into political debates instead of coordinated solutions. Meanwhile, thousands live in unsafe conditions, exposed to extreme heat or freezing nights. The so-called Texas prosperity boom has widened the gap between wealth and survival, leaving an increasing number of people sleeping on the very streets that symbolize the state's growth. 13. The unbearable cost of car ownership. Since public transit is lacking, car ownership isn't optional. It's mandatory. But keeping a car in Texas has become a financial burden. High gas prices, insurance rates, registration fees, and tolls add up fast. Many cities rely on toll highways as their main arteries, turning everyday commuting into a costly ritual. On top of that, road maintenance and heat damage wear vehicles down faster than usual, leading to constant repairs. In a state built for drivers, the freedom of the open road now feels like an expensive trap. 12. The growing power outages and rolling blackouts. We already mentioned the grid's instability, but it's worse than you think. Rolling blackouts aren't limited to winter storms anymore. They're creeping into summer too. With record-breaking heat, power demand regularly surpasses supply. Every few months, ERCOT issues warnings urging residents to conserve electricity or risk statewide outages. Businesses lose money, families panic, and the elderly suffer in sweltering homes. The fear of being left powerless, literally, has become part of daily life in Texas. It's a situation that feels less like a temporary glitch and more like a new normal. 11. The intense heat island effect in cities. Texas cities are literally baking themselves alive, as relentless urban expansion replaces grass, soil, and trees with endless stretches of asphalt, glass, and concrete. Temperatures in places like Dallas, Houston, and Austin can soar 10 to 15 degrees higher than in nearby rural zones. This urban heat island effect traps heat during the day and releases it slowly at night, turning evenings into suffocating extensions of the afternoon. Air conditioners run non-stop, power grids strain under demand, and energy bills skyrocket. The consequences go beyond discomfort. Residents face heat-related illnesses, worsening air quality, and an overall decline in livability. Outdoor workers endure dangerous conditions, pets risk burns from sidewalks, and public events are frequently canceled due to extreme temperatures. In response, city governments have begun installing shade canopies, planting more trees, and opening cooling centers, but these measures feel like patchwork solutions to a growing crisis. For many Texans, escaping the heat has become impossible, even inside their own homes. Before moving on to the top 10, remember to subscribe to the channel and give it a like to become a wise expert in American geography. 10. Water contamination and infrastructure failures. Beyond running out of water, Texas has a growing problem with what is available. Dozens of municipalities have faced boil water notices over the past few years due to contamination or aging pipes. In 2023 alone, over 200 public water systems reported safety violations. Residents in places like Odessa, Laredo, and Houston have experienced outages that lasted days, forcing families to rely on bottled water. Corrosion, outdated plumbing, and industrial runoff have all contributed to the issue. When clean drinking water becomes a luxury, it's no wonder people are questioning whether Texas can sustain its booming population much longer. 9. Increasing wildfire threats. Once considered a California problem, wildfires are now a Texas reality. Drought, extreme heat, and rapid development near wildlands have turned large swaths of the state into tinderboxes. In early 2024, the Smokehouse Creek fire burned over 1 million acres in the Panhandle, the largest in Texas history. Suburbs built close to grasslands are increasingly at risk, and firefighters are stretched to their limits. Insurance companies have already begun raising rates or denying coverage altogether in high-risk areas. For homeowners, the fear of losing everything to a fast-moving blaze has become a grim part of life. 8. Air conditioning dependence and energy poverty. Air conditioning isn't just comfort in Texas, it's survival, but the cost of running it non-stop through brutal summers is pushing families into what experts call energy poverty. When monthly electric bills climb past $500 or $600, people start rationing cool air, risking heat exhaustion. In lower income areas, residents rely on outdated systems that can't keep up or break down entirely. Public cooling centers offer some relief, but they're often too few and far between. The irony is painful. In a state known for energy production, many can't afford to stay safely cool. 7. The vanishing natural landscapes. For generations, Texas was defined by its open skies and wild beauty, but unchecked development is swallowing that landscape at record speed. Between 1997 and 2022, Texas lost more than 3 million acres of open land to urban sprawl. Lakes are shrinking, forests are thinning, and once idyllic rural regions are filling with subdivisions and warehouses. Wildlife habitats are vanishing, and outdoor enthusiasts are finding fewer places left to camp, hunt, or hike. The state that once embodied the spirit of the frontier is rapidly losing its most defining feature: its natural freedom. 6. The rise in airborne allergens and pollen seasons. If you suffer from allergies, Texas is a nightmare. The combination of heat, air pollution, and aggressive plant growth has made cities like Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio some of the worst places in the country for seasonal allergies. Cedar fever, ragweed, and mold spores hit hard nearly year-round, thanks to longer growing seasons caused by climate change. For residents with asthma or respiratory issues, daily life often means medication and limited outdoor activity. What used to be an occasional nuisance has become a year-round battle against the air itself. 5. Lack of affordable childcare and family support. Raising a family in Texas has become increasingly unsustainable. Childcare costs have soared, often rivaling mortgage payments. According to state data, the average annual cost for infant care in Texas exceeds $10,000, more than in-state college tuition at some public universities. At the same time, childcare facilities are closing due to staffing shortages and low wages. For single parents or dual-income households, this has created a childcare crisis that forces difficult choices between work and family. The family-friendly reputation of Texas is fading fast under the weight of these impossible economics. 4. Poor urban planning and flooding disasters. Despite its size and experience with extreme weather, Texas hasn't managed to solve its flooding problem. Cities like Houston sit on floodplains that can't handle modern rainfall volumes. Every major storm brings submerged highways, ruined homes, and billions in damages. Rapid urbanization only makes it worse. Concrete expansion blocks drainage, and inadequate zoning allows homes to be built where they shouldn't. Even smaller towns like San Marcos and Wimberley have faced catastrophic floods in recent years. For many Texans, it's not a question of if their home will flood, it's when. 3. Limited cultural and recreational opportunities outside major cities. Sure, Austin's music scene is legendary, and Houston's food is world-class, but step outside the metro areas and entertainment options drop off dramatically. Many towns rely on chain restaurants and strip malls for leisure, with little in the way of public art, nightlife, or walkable community spaces. The vast distances between cities make travel expensive and time-consuming. For younger residents or those seeking cultural diversity, this isolation is stifling. Once the novelty of space and affordability fades, what's left is monotony, a lifestyle with fewer opportunities to connect, explore, or grow. 2. The relentless cost of living increases. Texas once marketed itself as the affordable alternative to states like California or New York. That slogan no longer holds up. The cost of living, housing, utilities, groceries, healthcare, and transportation combined has jumped more than 20% in just the past 5 years. Wages, however, have barely budged. Groceries that cost $80 in 2018 now top $120. Gas prices swing wildly with every refinery hiccup, and property tax reassessments continue to squeeze homeowners year after year. The supposed cheap life in Texas has quietly transformed into one of the nation's most deceptive myths. 1. The myth of endless opportunity. And here we are. The #1 reason living in Texas has become impossible. For decades, Texas sold itself as a place where hard work guaranteed success. Affordable homes, low taxes, strong jobs, and room to grow. That was the pitch. But reality tells a different story. The booming job market favors tech transplants and corporate giants, not local workers. The low tax promise is offset by high costs elsewhere. Infrastructure can't handle the demand, and environmental strain threatens long-term stability. The Texas dream has become a marketing illusion, big on promise, short on delivery. More and more Texans are realizing that the future they were told to chase is slipping further away every year. You're spoiled. Now that you know the hidden truth about Texas, would you like to live there if you had the chance? Or in which other state would you like to live? We'd love to read your opinion in the comments and see how many of us agree. However, many of us will also agree to watch the video on screen because we all like having facts to share and learn, and that's precisely what this video will do. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like. Otherwise, we may never see each other again.